Masechta Zevachim, Daf Zayin Amud Aleph. We're starting from 9 lines from the top. Itmar. It's by the 2 dots. Itmar.
What?
Itmar. 9. Number 9. You see? Itmar. We had learned Toida Sheshchot L'Shem Toid Schaveidai. If somebody was Makav HaToida, but when he shechted it, he said it should have all the same qualities or all the dinim of the Toida that my friend has. He was looking at the dinim of his friend. Ksheira. And his friend's Taida is maybe being brought for another reason. Taida could be brought for many, many reasons. But he said, my Taida is going according to all the dinim and pratim of my friend's Taida. Is it kosher or not? So he says, Ksheira. The Tanakhama says kosher. Rabbi Amar Ksheira. Rabbi says Ksheira. From Itma, the 2 dots. Go down a little bit, like 9 lines on top.
I know you're in the middle of learning, but Chabad, good to my
Anyway, Rabbi says it's kosher. And Reuben was makiv his taida according to Shimon's dinim or whatever his mind was for the taida, Rabbi says it's kosher. Avchizda mapsula. Avchizda says it's possible. Meaning, Reuben is not going to be yetzer his chayv for his taida with having in mind with the taida of his friend. Rabbi says kosher because al kapanim taida l'shem taida nishchata. Nothing changed. He was makav taida and he had in mind for the sake of a taida. Avchizda ma psula. Avchizda says it's possible. L'shum shlam didei nishchata beinan. It says the taida has to be geshacht and bedavke for him as being the balabas, not for the sake of his friend. Meaning he's being makiv, but he's being makiv according to the machshava of his friend. And what do we know that it has to be? Your machshavas has to be l'shem your bailim, because it says zevach toida shlom mav. Mav means him. If he was shachted the carbon of and he had in mind for the sug of his friend, even though it's in Taida, but for the category that his friend is being makav as a Taida, it's possible. Amar Rabba said, "No, I mean Allah." But where do I learn out that it's kosher? The Tanya that we learned in Abraisa, it says, "Ubasar zevach Taida of Shlama b'yemakiv yazivchei." So this pasuk is misyachas to a Taida, as if it's a Shlamim. Abba Chanan Amim Mishum Rabbi Laza. This is coming to teach us Taida sheshchat l'shem shlamim ksheira. If a Taida was geshacht l'shem shlamim, it's kosher. We had this yesterday. Last week. Shlam shenishch l'shem Taida psul. But a shlamim that was geshacht l'shem Taida, it's possible. What's the difference? Why, if it's Taida that was shacht l'shem shlamim, it's kosher, but the reverse is going to be possible?
Before we didn't explain it?
We did. And this, he gave the exact same reason as now. Because Taida, Kriya Shlamim, Shlamim is klalistic. In Shlamim, there are levels. Taida is part of Shlamim. But they in Shlamim, Kriya Taida. But a Shlamim, which is the klalistic name, is not included in Taida, which is a detail in Shlamim. And therefore, if somebody was Makiv, Shlamim L'Shem Taida, he's not Yetzer. Says Gemara, so what do we see from here? Shlamim L'Shem Taida Psula. That if he was Makiv, Shlamim L'Shem Taida is going to be possible. But if it was Taida L'Shem Taida, how about if he was Makiv Taida itself, he shachted it, L'Shem, somebody with the mindset of somebody else's Taida.
Right?
What?
You said if a Shlamim is okay, which is a klalistic Indian.
If it's a Taida L'Shem Shlamim, so Taida for L'Shem Taida for sure. But he's saying a little different. He's saying Shlamim, the only psul that you brought down in that brisa was Shlamim L'Shem Taida. But if it wouldn't have been Shlamim, it would have been Taida L'Shem Taida, it would have been kosher. My love, the Chavrei, isn't the Kavanah over here that if he shachted his Taida L'Shem, the Taida of his friend, according to the category of the Taida that his friend is bringing, it is kosher, says Gemara Loi. It's talking about the day. The Kavanah is talking about that he himself had 2 Taidas. He brought one Taida for one purpose and one Taida for another. One for coming out of jail and one for making it overseas. And he had in mind for the wrong kavanas each Taida. So he says that's where he says it's going to be kosher. But But if he had in mind, according to the Torah, the category of his friend, what's going to be the din? Psula. It's going to be apostle like the Shita of Chisda. Because the only deed you can make is a Torah l'shem Torah for himself. But if he had a mind in the Torah according to the category of his friend,
it's all because of a deal. He's medayik azoi.
Yeah.
Not because he's klor azoi.
right, it's not clear. At the time Shlam l'shem Torah Psula says, I have a kasha. If now that you learn Shlam l'shem Torah is possible, but you can learn a bigger chiddush. Listening Torah l'shem Torah of his friend is possible. The kol shekain Shlam l'shem Torah. Why didn't you learn that? And the Gemara. Shlamim l'shem Torah today it's a clay. You need shlamim that he was making a shlam l'shem the Torah for himself. Meaning the Masal Kadait Chamin. I would have thought with the Torah kriya shlamim. I would have thought that shlamim nami kriya Torah. That's what we needed. He's saying we needed it for itself. When it says shlamim l'shem Torah today it's a we needed it to teach us in this category of shlamim and Torah. In these two names, there was a chiddush because what was the chiddush? Because I would have thought Torah you could be marked as a shlamim. Torah l'shem shlamim. No, we can't learn out when he says you couldn't say. Yeah, Torah l'shem Torah chamin is tak apostle. But what was the chiddush? Why didn't we want to use that chiddush? Because we're learning over here a bigger chiddush. We're learning in Torah kruya shlamim. If he was marked a Torah for shlamim, it's kosher. So I would have thought it works the reverse. I need to have a rai that the reverse is not going to be good. So shlamim nami kriyan Torah. So I would have thought shlamim is also called Torah. I thought it works both ways. The chishachet lehu l'shem Torah likasher. When it was shachted shlamim l'shem Torah, I would have thought it's kosher. Kamashman. That's why the Brais had to use this limud to tell us that if he shachted a shlam l'shem Torah, that it's possible, because I would have thought it's kosher, just like a Torah l'shem shlamim is kosher. So I would have thought a shlamim is a Torah, and it works the reverse. No, I could not, because I would have made the mistake that shlamim and Torah are the same thing.
So I would say that a Torah l'shem shlamim would be.
The shlamim l'shem Torah, I would have said it's kosher. It's not good, right? Amar Rabbi said, "Chatas shechata l'shem chatas." A chatas that he shechted for the purpose of a chatas, but so one chatas was for chaylev, but he had a mind for dam. Chatas, no. Kshed, it's kosher. L'shem oila, but what's if he had in mind? Yeah, again. So if he came to be mechapa a chatas that he separated for achilas chaylev, and he shechted it again to be mechapa and achilas dam, it's ksheda. And the balabas was he doesn't have to bring another carbon l'shem oila, but if he shechted it l'shem oila, then it's psula legamri, like we learned in our Mishnah. It's a different carbon. It's called shinui kodesh. What am I time now? What is the reason to be mechalik these two cases? So and the Gemara says the marker is v'shachat oisa lechatas amachmana. So the word oisa, that's only if he shachat l'shem chatas, but not l'shem karma any chatas. Oisa only for chatas, but not l'shem karmacher. What about chatas l'shem chatas nishchata? But we find a chatas in the first case if he shachat l'shem chatas. And and you said it's kosher, right?
Yeah.
Mashenkin in the second case, shenish l'shem oila, he said it's psula because it wasn't shachli the shum chatas. That's all. He's just telling you a din, a statement. V'amarava, another statement. Chatas sheshchata amish mechuyev chatas. Someone chatas of Reuben that he shach ramanas that sprayed the blood, l'shem Shimon that was chayiv b'kab chatas also. So then it's psula, because it was a shinui bailin. He shechted a chatas, right? Almanas to spray the blood. Reuven shechted a chatas. Almanas to spray the blood for Shimon, who's chayiv also karm chatas. Then it's psula. How about if he shechted almanas lizik al mi shemechuyev ayla? What's if he shechted a chatas and he had in mind when he sprayed the blood for his friend who's chai va'ila? Like his friend who made a neder to bring Gaela,
So how's it?
and he didn't have a chiyuv chatas.
So why is it?
Sheda. Oh, my time. What's the reason? Says you want to.
Before that, you can't do a chatas for a neder.
What do we say? A chatas for Gaela. This not there was talking about.
He himself.
Over there when he only if it's Isla chatas. It's of course it's but for one person. We're talking one person here. We're talking about shinoi bailim for another person. So how do we know what's the reason? Because in the past we had this before. B'chipa olav, and we dashen olav on the bala carbon v'loy al chaveire. But where does the diuk of olav v'loy al chaveire go on? But chaveire doing it today. It has to be a carbon that his chava was bringing a carbon similar to his. Both achatas. But mechuyev kapara k'meisei. Only if it was a kapara that he was going to bring the same as Reuven.
So
Then we make the diuk that it's not going to be shina b'ayim. But if it's oila, no, that's not what the olav is coming to teach us. Olav Eloi Chaved is only talking about that Reuven had a mind for Shimon on the same carbon that he was chayiv. But if it was a different carbon, the law would be that it's kosher. Another statement.
Why didn't do a mine? Disappeared.
Okay. Rava says, what's if he slaughtered a chatas amunas to spray the blood on somebody who's not chayiv to bring at all? Sula. Because a person, every person for sure has an aveda that it was over say. Nobody's perfect. So here the chatas, he shechted it, amanas to spray the blood for somebody who wasn't mechuyev anything. So that's like the same min. It's like a chatas because he for sure sinned. Says Rava said shachatz v'chaperes al chayav yaseh. We said Rava said that a chatas could forgive in somebody who's chayav and aseh v'kavachema. Im a chayav krisus. If a chayav krisus that a chatas is more chamor, right? That the sin is more chamor. The chatas forgives for even a much more severe sin. A chayav ma'is aseh like oshkein. Shouldn't it forgive even on something that's chayav on aseh? So therefore, even if he shechs the chatas amanas to spray the blood for a person who's not chayiv anything, right? It's considered a shina bailim, which passes the chatas. So because he for sure that person for sure has an aveda that the chatas is going to forgive on his asay.
So therefore, it's a different shino bailim.
It's shina bailim of the same category. What are you talking about? Are you going to say the kapara bitul mitzvah say is considered as a kapara of a chatos? Chatos is an alois asay. A oila goes for asay. Okay, oila goes for asay. V'amar Rabba chatos shechot havanas lizges domei ami shemechuyev chatos psula.
So
here it's mina. So if it's mina, it should be puzzle.
What's the mina?
Again.
Because
You're saying the kapara of the chatas
should be one.
Forgives even on a bitul mitzvah say.
Yeah.
So it's considered as the same min. The chatos that he's bringing for himself, and he's spraying the blood for his friend who doesn't owe nothing, is considered as the same min, as if he's forgiving for his chatos. So he's saying if it's the same, yeah, shinoi bailim. But if it's the same mean, we said it's possible. Allah, but if it's the same mean, it's possible. So how could you say it forgives? But on somebody who's chayv ayla, it's kosher. So it has to be
what did he bring here? He brought a
chatos.
Oh, okay. But if he did it for somebody else
that it wasn't chayv anything, or ayla, he would be potter. It will be kosher. It will be ksheda. And here we said that what? It's psula. He brought amish henim mechuyev klum. It's possible.
Yeah,
that means because it's the same min.
But if it's an oila, It would be okay.
If it was a oila, it would be okay.
And what did we say? That what?
So you have to say that the kapara that he did for
If
bittul,
he had no chiyuv of anything and you bought an oil for somebody else,
and you sprayed the blood for somebody who wasn't chayv at all, right? So we said that it's psula, but Rava says we could prove that what? So Rava says, should we say it's basmina? That's why it's possible. So should we say it's basmina? It's ksheira. So should we say? So the kasha is this is obviously paskin that it's psula. You paskin that it was psula. Psula. Obviously, it's of the same mean. Psula. So that means it's basmina. It's not oila. It's because it's mechapa on asay. So you consider it as basmina. Okay. So let's go weiter. So the Gemara says, "Mekiva loy mechapra, mekufya mechapra." So what was his kasha? His kasha is l'cheda. It is eina minoi because it's like it's an asay, and the oil is the one that's mechapa an asay. So it should be kosher. That's his kasha. I think that's what he's ending off to say.
But what did he have in mind with the chiller?
To spray the blood for somebody who wasn't chayv anything. So we say automatically.
What was he bringing a carbon for? He was bringing from himself a
chatas, correct.
Then he said, I wanted to use it as an
I want to spray the blood for my friend. It doesn't say oila for my friend who doesn't know anything. We said automatically he was oila nasei, which really that's a oila that forgives for asei. So really, so if it's ein amina, it should be kosher, and we said it's psula. Okay, so how could the other paskin that chatas mechaperes al chay ve'asei? We said before. We said if it was a chatas, he's asking on before the Gemara because here oila is for an asei, right?
Okay.
So it's ein amina, and we said if it's ein amina, it's kosher.
Yeah.
And here we said it's psula. It should be.
He said that it's
Again, the Amar Rava, start again. The Amar Rava, chatas sheshchata, ami sheina mechuyev, klum, psula. L'cheda, why? Because he says sheina chaladam v'yisol sheina mechuyev asay. So because the chatas is forgiving for an asay. So the problem is, if the chatas is forgiving for an asay, that's really ein amina. Because the real carbon that forgives for an asay is a oila. And here we said it's psula. You're making it sound like it's basmina, but it's not. It's
so 1 second. Basmina is what? It's psula, right?
psula. But here it's not basmina.
But it says olav.
Well, only if it's in the same category, then it's going to be psula. But here it's not basmina because it's forgiving for an asay, which normally a oila forgives for.
It should be good.
It should be good, yeah. So the Gemara answers it's not a stira. Mikiva loy mechapra. He says the chatas doesn't forgive a kapara kvua for a bitul mitzvah. Say l'mashal, if you did somebody was mevatel a mitzvah say, so he has to mamish designate a oila for it, and a chatas cannot forgive for such a say. No way.
Okay.
Here we're talking about. It's mikufya mechapra. It's like a secondary thing. It's something like it's like we said shiyarim yinach is the remnants for things that he didn't set aside as a sin kavua. That if there was he was able to say, and there was no carbon set aside for that aveda that he was able to say kavua, then the chatas will forgive. But if it's a set aveda that he was even aveda asay, and he set a cup especially.
It's not a big kavua, like what?
What, like we said yesterday, by menachis, you have to put by a cup. You have to do smicha. So, but let's say he didn't do smicha, so that's called like secondary.
Okay.
It's not. But if he didn't set aside a carbon for that, then the chatas would forgive for that. But if he set aside taka oila, if it's an aveda that was a kavua, he said, hey, he was Ivan a mitzvah say, and he set aside oila from that mitzvah say, on such a carbon, on such a aveda, a chatas will not forgive. It only forgives on mikufya. He calls it safo klusha, something that's like, it's like secondary. Another din Rava said, oila that was geshacht in shalei lishma, asl izik dama shalei lishma. You're not allowed to spray its blood shalei lishma. Okay, this we had before also. Let's say you took a oila and you shachted shalei lishma, so you can't continue with this carbon shalei lishma. Let's say you designated for a oila and you had in mind for, let's say, a shlamim, and then you chapsich was a oila, or the halach is you have to spray the blood as a oila. You can't do shalei lishma. Zok the Gemara, Iba you say makra, Iba you say svara. Either I can give you a pasuk or I can give you a svara. Iba you say makra, either I can give you a pasuk. It says meitzis l'sachat tishmeir, and if you remember, it starts off with neder and ends off with nedava. To tell you if you fulfilled like your neder is good. If you didn't, just continue as a nedava that carbon, but you don't but treat the carbon like the original kedusha that it had. You have another reason why you shouldn't deviate. But when it comes to the zrika, that it should be shlei lishma, it has to be lishma. Because he changed that one thing, should we change the whole carbon? Obviously, from the oila he had in mind, it was shlei lishma.
What do you mean he changed from one thing plus the second thing that he should change?
What?
In other words, you said
The zrika. He should spray the blood of this oila on the mizbeach l'shem oila, not l'shem a different carbon. Even though l'chatchila when he shechted it, he had in mind for a different carbon. When it comes to the zika, it should be still l'shem oila, because he says that, he brought this svara is because he was mishana the carbon when he shechted it. That's not a reason that he should keep on and continue shalei l'shma. No, he should go back and he should spray the blood l'shem oila. Like we brought down at the beginning of the Pedic. Rabba said another din. Oila that comes after Misa. Shchata, if he had slaughtered it, Beshini Kodesh, with having in mind, let's say it was a Chatas, and then he changed his mind, it should go for Oila Psula. It's Plaso.
He shafted after the person that was
After the person passed away, there was no Chiyuv Mitzad Bailim. But it was an oila. He cannot change the oila to another carbon. Okay. How about with b'machshav shinui boilim? Let's say he had in mind to change the owner, use the same carbon, but a new owner. We're talking about the guy died, and now they want to use this carbon for a new owner.
Okay.
So he says ksheda, because they ain't machamisa. There's no bilim once the original one who designated the carbon died. So you have a carbon, it's without bilim, and whoever becomes the bilim is now the bilim and finished. It's not called shinu bilim. He says no, it is called shinu bilim. It belongs to the yarshim, and if anybody other than the yarshim take the carbon, it's called shinu bilim. Who says it's called shinu bilim? Dafka kama yesh bilim lachamisa. Are we saying dafka? That means that if the yarshim are the bailim, right, and the other people come and take this oila, will they?
Well, the yarshim are the bailim. They have to bring the carbon there.
The yarshim are supposed to bring, and let's say the ushina bailim, so then. Do they have to bring another Eila because there was Shina Bailan? Because it wasn't the Yashim who brought the carbon? Or perhaps we'll say the Kavanah is the Ika Kama Maisa Gabei Mechapra. Since there are many Chiyuvi say that this Eila is Mechapra for them, and they have also. So if it was geschachten, not for the Yashim, for other people, right? The Yiddish won't have to bring another Oila in its place, because the Yiddish is not the one that made the Neda on the carbon. So even though the Sheikhet had in mind somebody else, they're automatically going to be forgiven, and they're not going to have to bring another Oila. Being that the Oila is Mechapa on many, many assays. When you said there are Bailim La'achamisa, that means the Yoshim and the new Bailim are the Bailim, Dafka Kamina, did you say that the Dafka, meaning you had in mind that the Yiddish is the Balakam for everything, against the Shita of Rava? And if he was Makaba Oila B'Shina Bailim, the Yiddish will have to bring another, will have to bring also, Amalei, I'm sorry, Pinchas says, it is Shinoi Bailam. If meaning that once the Bailam died, the Yarshim are the owners, and if the Sheikh had in mind for somebody else, they will have to bring another carbon. That's what he paskin. Because before we asked, which way is it? Another Devama Rava Oila Deirami. Oila is considered as a matana. So how's it talking about? Either like a tshuva. If you're talking about Be'efin, that the Chayta it brought the Oila without doing tshuva, says what's going on? Zevachim Tayeva. Kabim of Rishayim is Tayeva, is disgusting. And if you're talking about he did tshuva, Tanya, Ava Mitzvah Say the Shav, somebody who was over on a Mitzvah Say and he did tshuva, Lo Yizaz Mishat Shemeichlan Loi. He is forgiven immediately, and he doesn't need a Oila in order to be Machapa. So why is he bringing Oila? Ashmami, no, they don't need. It's a dain, it's a matana. Like somebody goes to the king, and he tells the king he did a sin, and he sent somebody in for him to ask for on his behalf to forgive him. And once he's forgiven, he brings in a present. That's the Eilah as a present. Like you want to Tanya Namiyach, we also learned Abraham Sasuli. Yamarav Shimon, Chatas Lama Ba. Why does one bring a Chatas? Like you want to what? Lama Ba, Lachaper. It's coming to be mechaper on avedis that the mezid is called mishayik is and mishayik is a chatas. Ella lama ba lefnei oila. Rather, what's the shaila? Why does a chatas come before the oila? Let the oila come first.
First you give the present.
No, so, that's what he answered. I'm thinking about it. Marshal the praklit, the defender shenichnas that entered into the king to persuade the king to forgive this person. And if the Ritza, Praklit, if the defender was pale that the king should forgive him, Nichnas Achrov, then he bring in the present. We learned in the Mishnah, all the Zevachim that was Shaft and Shalei Lashma, you continue as Kasher Kabanes, but then you're not Yetzidei Chayla, you have to bring your own carbon. But if it's a Pesach Chatas, it's Pasal. If it was Shlei Lishma. So you want a Pesach V'Nala? Where do we know Pesach from? That you have to Shech the Lishma. So you want to say it says in the Pesach, Shamoir, as Chaydish Havasisa, Vasisa Pesach, Vasisa, I'm sorry, this Pesach, Shehei Kol Asi Yosav, all the Avedas, Asi Yosav is going on the Aveda of the carbon, that all the Avedas of the carbon should be L'Shem Pesach. It should be L'Shem Carbon Pesach. So the mitzvah, the hakim Carbon Pesach has to be L'Shma. Says Gemara Ashkechan Shinei Kodesh. This pasuk tells you that if you had in mind for one while bringing one carbon for another carbon, that the mitzvah is it should be L'Shem the carbon that he's bringing and not another carbon. How about Shina Ba'olam and Allah? How do we know if he changed his mind? He had in mind for another owner. That you have to have the same, the original owners who will bring the carbon. You can't have in mind for different owners when they shacht it. And you want to see Ba'amat from Zevach Pesach. So the word Zevach is extra, like we had before. So the Hey Zvich L'Shem Carbon Pesach. We don't need it for Shina Kodesh. We already learned from the word Asiyayisav that all the Avids have to be L'Shma by Shina Kodesh. So we don't need for Shina Kodesh. Neyu Inyan L'Shina Bailam. We give it for Inyan Bailam. So you find that there's a mitzvah has to be Lishma. How do we know that it becomes possible if he doesn't? And the Gemara Hamakar says the pasuk was Zavach the pasuk Hashem Alakecha. So here also this pasuk tells you have to shech l'shem come Pesach, and this Zavach that's come to tell you it's an extra word. It's come to tell you if you didn't shech l'shem come Pesach, it's going to be puzzle. Masculine Safra. Hi, the Zavach the you're saying the Zavach that's come to tell you la'akiv that if he wasn't l'shma, it's going to be puzzle. How do we know somebody designated a Korban Pesach, a behemoth for a Korban Pesach, and they ran away, and they took another Korban Pesach, and then the original one came back? Shehu Karim Shlam, that it's sacrificed as Shlamim. Shanam was Zavach the Pesach Hashem and Lekach Tzoyin Uvakar. That says you should check the Pesach Hashem Tzoyin Uvakar. There, Valein Pesach Ba Elam Akvas Meisim. So how can you say Tzoyin Uvakar? So we can't. The Meisah Pesach Shehei Ledava Abba Bin Tzoyin Uvakar. It has to be that the Meisah is brought from Tzoyin Uvakar. Which remind you which covenant is that? The Shlamim. That's the chiddush. So we don't have a pasuk la'akiv. Allah have safar the Pesach. It says like the Nachman. Shomei es chiddush aviv v'asisa Pesach. Lemitzvah b'shinu kodesh. V'amatem Zevachim b'shinu b'olim lemitzvah. Then you have the extra word who is la'akiv bein hachal bein hachal. Whether it's shinu kodesh, whether it's shinu b'olim, the who is going to be ma'akiv and tell you it's possible. V'ashkon zvicha says what he found. Only been again to Shechita, Shar Avedis. How do we know that Kabbalah Sadam, Eilacha Zika, we know that it has to be L'Shem Bailim, L'Shem the covenant? Yes, since the Torah already revealed by Shina Bein B'Shina Bailim that it's Ma'akiv the Pesach, right? And the Din Shina Kodesh is Shina Kodesh. We know is kind exists by all the Avedis. So to here we're going to say. It's not only by Zvicha, by the Pesach, it's also by all other Avedis also. We don't say that. How do we know the other Avedis that it has to be Lishma? So we compare everything to Shlamim. The Tanya B'Yem Tzava says, it says Kamenayim. So what does Kamenayim come to add? It's come to add those two that were not mentioned amongst those kabbanas to compare to Shlamim. Which two was it? Zevachim U'Maisa U'Pesach. It was referring to Zevachim U'Maisa U'Pesach. The Kisha Akas L'Shmam. The Torah compared to Shlamim. Ma Shlamim Ben Shinu Kodesh Ben Shinu Bailam Eidon L'Mitzvah. Avkol Ben Shinu Kodesh Ben Shinu Bailam you need L'Mitzvah. And with Shlamim U'Kish Shlamim like Shlamim. Ma Shlamim Ben Shinu Ben Shinu Avedis Lo Yichalakta Bahem L'Mitzvah. Pesach lo tachli bein zvicha l'shav la'akiv. You're not going to be mechalik between zvicha and the other ones to be ma'akiv. Mishum shenema hu bezvicha eina la'akiv. So he says, who told us it's la'akiv? Here we're learning out from Shlamim. It's ma'akiv. He said it's not right. We learn shinui ma'akiv, shinui by bailim ma'akiv b'shchita. Right? By Pesach, it's not. It is Ma'akiv. We said by Pesach, it is Ma'akiv. Okay, we'll have to stop over here a second. So we already learned out from Shlamim that by Zvicha is we're not going to be mechalek between Zvicha and the other Avedes. La'akiv, just like Zvicha is Ma'akiv by Pesach, so to the Shar Avedes. And we learn how to comparing the Lishma, the Din Lishma, to Shlamim, and just like by Shlamim, so whether it's Zvicha or the other Avedis, you weren't mechalik, that it has to be L'Shem HaKarb and also L'Shem HaBailim. There's no difference between Shchita and the other Avedis. So by Pesach, we're not going to be mechalik. And since we learned already that the Shinei Bailim is Me'akib by Shchita, so too we'll say it's going to be Me'akib by all the other Avedis. In fact, we said who is coming to tell you by Korban Pesach that's Zvicha is Me'akib. We already know, but we just now said we learned out from Shlamim. And the Gemara, like we learned the Raisa, what does he come to tell us with the word who? Where does the word who say by Pesach, by Shchita, by to teach us that the Machshava Shalei Lishma is going to be possible. Avalon Shalei never by who Elalach Aktar Sei Murim. By Hashem, it's only said if the Aktar Sei Murim. So since the who by Hashem is not written by Shchita, it's written by the Aktar Sei Murim, and the Aktar Sei Murim is in itself is not Ma'akiv, so it doesn't make sense to say that the Machshava Shalei Lishma b'Shas Aktar Sei Murim should possibly come. And that's what he's coming to tell us with the word who. The who that said by Asham is not coming to tell you that if it was Shalei Lishma, it's going to be Ma'akiv. Only by Chatas, where the who is written by the Zeva, by the Zvicha, by the Shchita, that's where if it was Shalei Lishma, it's going to be Ma'akiv. And he's come to tell you that the who that's written by Asham is not written in the same place. It's written by the Aktar Sei Murim, which we know the Aktar Sei Murim is not a Avodah that's Ma'akiv, and it's come to tell you, even though it was done by Hashem, it was done Shalei Lishma, it's not going to be Ma'akiv. That's the Chiddush of the word who.